بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين نحمده ونشكره على ما هدانا ونسلم ونصلي على سيدنا وهادينا ومرشدنا أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين رسول إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الأخيار وصحبه المنتجبين. Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Last night, I pointed out that no historical event can take place in vacuum. Small or large, effective or ineffective. Whatever happens, there must be some factors and conditions that lead to the event. And also I pointed out that we as people, when it comes to the analysis of history, we should avoid oversimplification. In a sense, think of an event only purely as a piece that happened independent by itself. I also explained the tribal condition that prevailed before the coming of Islam in the Arabian Peninsula, and cited that the fact that harsh ecosystem and the tribal structure insulated the Arab of the Arabian Peninsula from benefiting from either of the Byzantine Roman civilization to the north or the Persian civilization to the east or northeast. It created a unique structure, social structure within the Arabian Peninsula, particularly in the tribal way of life, that primarily wealth and power dictated the hierarchical structure. Whoever had more wealth and more brute power naturally was respected and revered compared to the other. It was, as one could say, the laws of the jungle. Only the most ferocious and vicious tribe can survive. The survival of the fittest probably has an example over there. Bani Umayyah was considered, in at least the social structure that existed, Bani Umayyah, in the social structure that existed in pre-Islam, had the most power, as I explained last night, to reach peace and tranquility within Mecca, Bani Hashim decided to pacify everyone by giving each tribe something to do. And Bani Umayyah was given the post of, if one could say, the defense ministry, the one in charge of all the battles. And naturally, because of their social structure and their position, they really resisted Islam. They were not prepared to accept Islam. The way they saw it purely as an attempt by Bani Hashim to take full control by rejecting the power-sharing structure that existed. Otherwise, they did not see it as revelation. Abu Sufyan rejected it as the leader of Bani Umayyah. Until the victory in Mecca, in which Bani Umayyah had to step back and wait for the opportune moment where they can strike and retake power again. Saqifa was the moment that they were looking for. But before I get to Saqifa and explain my own reason why I believe it, the way I assess the historical event, we really need to go back to how and look at how Islam sees itself. We have a more vocal speaker here. We should give him a chance. I'm prepared to resent and come down. And look at why I believe that Saqifa was the first step towards the realization of Bani Umayyah that their plan could be reached. We really need to go back to how Islam sees itself. Islam, right from the beginning of its inception, considered itself the last message. It's quite clear. And considered the messenger that brought this message as Khatamul Anbiya, the last messenger. So by claiming universality, there was another issue that we had to deal with, or they had to deal with at that particular moment. Well, Islam claims to be universal. The messenger is the last message. It also reminded the messenger as well as the early Muslims that the life of this messenger is short and is going to terminate soon. إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ. You're going to die and everybody else is going to die. This poses a unique question. What should be done for a universal message that clearly says that there are no other messages after this? And at the same time, the last messenger is this messenger. And his life is limited. He's not going to stay till the end of history and to guide this, the new message to its fruition at the end. One has to ask the question, what was the plan for such a messenger that during his life literally occupied the entire leadership position? He was not only the religious scholar, he not only was the political leader, he was not only the judge, everything was part of it. So what are we going to do or what is he going to do as far as succession? What is going to happen after his death? Keep reminding yourself, number one, the last message, the last messenger, and the short life that this messenger has and he's going to go. There are three possible theories that one could envisage or proposition. One is that this messenger really cared less about what happens after. And this is why he did not say anything about the succession. Let me bring it down, and draw a parallel in our life. You are the founder of a company, the CEO. You have worked hard, the company has succeeded, and you intend for this company to continue its success and benefit from generation to come. Is it feasible for this CEO to pack his life and disappear without thinking about who's going to succeed him or her? I don't think this is why the first night I said, in our analysis, the accepted fundamental issues in Islamic theology, in particular Shia theology, and our rationale has to be brought in the way we analyze things. Here we have a messenger that God has repeatedly told him, you are going to go. You are the last messenger and your message is the last message. Do we think that this proposition that the Holy Prophet could leave this world without saying anything about who's going to succeed him is feasible? Particularly when we put it into the context that the Holy Prophet was aware of the internal as well as the external threat to the community. And this young community that only spent 23 years with the Holy Prophet, if we take some of these period in which the Holy Prophet could not work hard enough during Mecca, isolation, etc., etc., and the battles during Medina, it leaves the Holy Prophet with 4 to 5 years of what we call clear time for revelation and discussion about the future faith. The idea that somehow, despite understanding the internal threat and the external threat, the Prophet is going to leave the whole thing without saying anything about it is not feasible. Rationally not feasible. The next proposition is that he left it in the hand of the believers so that they would use the notion of consultation and shura to choose their own leadership. Here is another problem. Remember the clan structure in Arabia before Islam. The Arabs of Jahiliyyah had got used to the idea of top-down social structure rather than consultation and shura. This is why when the verse regarding shura came in, they found it strange. This notion of debating, discussing with the Holy Prophet of the advantage or disadvantage of one issue or the other. If the Holy Prophet wanted to educate, you can't expect a society that knows nothing about a political process to suddenly be thrown into it without prior engagement or at least practice. We see nothing during the life of the Holy Prophet that indicates this notion of consultation when it comes to the future leader was either discussed, practiced, or even analyzed for them or explained. The third, which we have no other alternative but to accept, is the proposition that he has to appoint a successor that he considers to be the worthy individual to lead the community, fully qualified. These three views, unfortunately, after the event that took place in Saqifa, the first time that we begin to see an embryonic stage for a political theory in Sunni Islam that believes in the second proposition that it left to the community to decide for itself, is nearly 130 years after the demise of the Holy Prophet. When by then Shia, or one camp or the other, has crystallized its own theological position, instead of independently analyzing and developing a political theory, what we had early on, the event of Saqifa and so on, became the foundation for the new political ideas. So every idea that was developed was to justify what happened in Saqifa and after. The view that said, well, it was left to the Muslims to decide for themselves, and our critique that there was nothing in the life of the Holy Prophet to indicate that such an idea was conceivable, was immediately rejected by the first Caliphs appointing the second Caliph. It was direct appointment. Historians say, well, when the first Caliph was close to his death, he lost consciousness, and for a while, and when he came back, he saw Uthman sitting next to him and encouraging him to appoint a successor. Whose name was mentioned? The second Caliph, Umar ibn al-Khattab. Now, if we go back to Saqifa, which was the Holy Prophet, I have discussed this with Christians and Jews and others. So far, not a single Christian, not a single Jew has thought that this practice would have been feasible in their faith. The body of Moses is lying in his house, attended by his son-in-law, by his daughter, and few others. You, the so-called grand Sahabas, leave the body of the Prophet, Moses, Jesus, or anybody else, and you go to a place debating your own leadership of the community. Imagine a Christian society with, well, we believe that Jesus was ascended to heaven. But let us, for the sake of argument, accept that Jesus was assassinated or died. His body is lying on stage, and the Christians, say Paul and Peter, start arguing with each other regarding who's going to succeed Jesus. That is exactly what happened in Islam. It was the most opportune moment for those people who were looking for the power after the demise of the Prophet to take control. Everything else that we have after, as far as political theory, etc., or political philosophy, is part of justification of history, rather than going back to the early historical event and independently judging it and see, does it make sense? Remember, all this takes place with close to 100 years ban on narration of hadith by the second Caliph. No one has the right to discuss any hadith, whether it's about Ahlul Bayt, the Holy Prophet, or anybody else. The excuse was, in case at this critical time people spend more time on hadith and will be deflected from the attention that they should pay to Quran. A political ploy. Let us look at what happened after Saqifa. Abu Bakr is elected, so-called selected, by a certain group of people at Saqifa, then comes to the mosque and asks for allegiance. Ali and a number of other Sahabas, grand Sahabas, are living they are in the house of Fatima, trying to attend to the burial of the Holy Prophet. Omar immediately tells, and by the way, this history that I'm telling you is narrated by both Shias and Sunnis. The only difference is that the Shia uses what I called last night the purely recording approach to history and analyzes it to see the factors and links with the history before, the Sunnis simply pass by and just don't look at it. Omar tells Abu Bakr that Ali and a number of Sahabas are in the house of Fatima. We must pacify them as quickly as possible by asking bay'ah from them, otherwise they are going to be the loose cannon within the community. And they have the respect as well as the reverence within the Muslim community. Even, Ibn Ishaq, in his narration of Saqifa, which is around 150 after Hijrah, clearly indicates that even at Saqifa, people were discussing the merit of Ali over Abu Bakr and Umar. But these two have had to rush through the whole thing, because otherwise, if people went into this debate about who has the authority, who has the reverence, who has the closeness to the Holy Prophet, etc., etc., the opportunity will be missed. Now, let's see what happens. The regime is prepared to use power, brute power, to pacify the center that could be the place for the opposition. Where? The house of Fatima. Immediately a group of people come in, Ibn Ishaq and a few others narrate this. Omar leads a contingent. Some people say Abu Bakr was with it, others say no. They come to the house of Fatima. We have elected or selected Abu Bakr as the Khalif. You have to swear allegiance. And when Fatima comes behind the door, open the door, otherwise we set fire to the house. Remember, this is the house that the Holy Prophet closed all the house door to the mosque but this house. Every time he left Medina for a battle or for a trip, came to this house to say goodbye. And when he came back to Medina, went to this house to say Assalamu alaikum ya Ahlul Bayt, trying to explain to the Muslim society the reverence that this house has. Fatima says, you're going to burn the house and I am inside? And he says, Walau, even if you are there, we set the house on fire. And they did. This clearly indicates that there was a plan, particularly when we go back to just few hours immediately before and immediately after. Saqifa took place immediately after the demise of the Holy Prophet. Immediately before, probably a day or so before the death of the Holy Prophet, Prophet realizes that these people, what Quran calls the munafiqun of the fifth column of the society, they are planning to stay around. He tried to send them out with Osama, they didn't go, to stay around and probably take power and would not allow the smooth transfer of power to Ali when he goes. So he asks for a piece of paper and a pen to actually dictate what is going to happen. He realizes that Ghadir is not going to work here because they are determined. What happens? Bukhari says, فَقَالَ عُمَرْ إِنَّ الرَّجُلَ لَيَهْجُرُ. Umar said that, nastajiru billah, the Holy Prophet has gone berserk and he's talking nonsense. That indicates the degree that they were prepared to go through to pacify the leadership that was going to be appointed by the Prophet, because this is the only opportunity that they take control, the golden opportunity. What happens? Uthman encourages Abu Bakr to appoint Umar as a successor. Bani Umayyah get involved immediately by convincing Umar to send Khalid, Muawiyah's brother, to go and become wali or leader of Sham district. Khalid dies within a year or two, who's going to succeed him? Muawiyah. Umar is encouraged to appoint Muawiyah. There was nobody else in the Muslim empire better qualified than Muawiyah and Khalid to go and lead such an important district of Islamic empire that was, up to a few years before, was the center of Christian and Byzantine and Roman empire and civilization. Unless we believe that factors clearly indicate that Bani Umayyah began to work slowly to get into the power. Muawiyah comes to power. Now there is an Iraqi scholar, Sayyid Hadi Mudarrisi, that book is written in Arabic, now translated into Farsi and a number of other languages. He claims now we have evidence that even the death of Umar was organized somehow. Bani Umayyah were involved. And then what happens just before his death? What happened to the shura and appointment, by the way, and selection by the Muslim community and Muslim leadership? It wasn't observed in the case of Umar, and in the case of Uthman, again we see a shura is organized, 6 people. See, the number already makes it maximum 3-3. Even if Ali was to succeed and convince half of this group, he's not going to get the majority. Why? Because Umar put it in such a way, in the group that Abdul Rahman ibn Auf is there, which is the cousin of Uthman, that's the group that takes priority. The whole thing was stacked against Ali. So Abdul Rahman deliberated for a couple of a day, organizes a group outside that these people should not be allowed to come out until they finally reach a conclusion. They come, already the whole so-called shura is stacked against Ali in favor of Uthman. Now we can see Bani Umayyah's path quite clearly in the whole thing. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf stands up early in the morning in the mosque. First goes to Ali. Ya Ali, are you prepared? Now, it's stacked against him. Now you make a condition that you know Ali is not going to accept. And the rest is plain sailing for Bani Umayyah. Are you prepared to accept, to work according to the book of Allah, the sunnah of the Holy Prophet, and the sunnah of the previous 2? They already knew that he had made his position clear vis-a-vis the first and the second, that he's not going to accept the sunnah. Ali said, as far as the book, no problem. As far as sunnah of the Holy Prophet, yes. But wherever there is something that I need to use judgment, I use my own judgment rather than the previous 2. Because they wanted to legitimize. See, this is the whole thing. And by the way, this hadith is narrated by Sunnis as well as Shias. This itself clearly indicates that Ali considered the previous 2 as illegitimate power. Otherwise, if they were legitimate power, he would have said it. He said no. Immediately Abdul Rahman ibn Auf turns to Uthman. Are you prepared to do it? Yes. Here goes the Khilafah, and Bani Umayyah are in. And the rest, as we say, is history. Even in his death, Osman's death, the last moment when there was a revolt against Uthman III Khalif, Ali and Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein worked hard to pacify people, because he did not want this notion, the policy of if people don't like the Khalif, they can assassinate it, to become normal within the early Islamic history. But it didn't work. Uthman was not prepared because his advisors were Marwan ibn al-Hakam and a few others. Muawiyah's army were about 6 miles from Medina. They could have come in and worked and saved Uthman. Why didn't they? Muawiyah's spies were in the house of Uthman. Why is it that the person who is inside the house, Muawiyah's agent, as soon as Uthman is killed, the small finger is cut, and the shirt, the bloody shirt, is taken and straight to Sham. Now you have a cash cow. You can milk it for the rest of your life as Ali being the assassin, or at least the person that ordered the killing of Uthman. You see how this policy, the political Bani Umayyah, the wheeler dealing before Islam, now begin to manifest itself after Islam. Uthman becomes the first step in which literally Bani Umayyah, because he is from Bani Umayyah, they take control, and the person who stood in the mosque of the Prophet swore allegiance that he would observe the book, the Sunnah of the Prophet, as well as the previous two. None of them were conformed to. It was free for all for his family. Bani Umayyah, that the Holy Prophet kicked them out, fought with them. Ali alayhi salam killed their leaders in the Battle of Badr, Uhud, and other places. In the battle, in the victory in Mecca, they had no alternative but to go underground and wait for the opportune moment. Within 25 years, they managed to take control of the Islamic power and call themselves, they are not in the opposition now, call themselves Khalifatullah and Khalifat Rasulullah. It's a tragedy for the Muslim community that we really need to understand how quickly, what is it that led to this gradual shift and movement away from the right path. Ashura was one such event that stood up for the correction. Inshallah, we will deal with the rest of the program tomorrow. And as I have said, we need to entertain answering question one or two at least within 10 minutes. Few people have asked me regarding the questions that we don't have to or we can't answer at this stage. I propose to Dr. Peyman as well as our brothers and others that on the day of Muharram, this is what we do in Colorado. On the day of Muharram, after Salatul Dhuhr, we have 3 to 4 hours of what we call free question time, in which people come in, particularly those who have questions, whether adult, younger generation, or others. They could come in, and we spend that time addressing these questions, rather than to deliver 2 lectures in that day, one in the afternoon and immediately one in the evening. If the board agrees and the rest are in agreement with it, I think that's the place where I'm going to address most of these questions that I have had no time to deal with during the 10-15 minutes. On the day of Ashura. After Dhuhr prayer, when the program is over, instead of delivering a lecture, we spend the time, what we call it, open QA session, in which, whether adults, I know one of the brothers came and asked me regarding the question that the sister asked last night, and the issue of upbringing of children. It requires a detailed analysis, and 5 minutes or 10 minutes is not going to suffice to deal with this issue. So if you agree, those of you who think they have a question, they can either write them down for Ashura, or you can give me your question now. I try to see whether I can accommodate 1 or 2 within the short period of time. So let's see if we have few questions for tonight. And I said I would look, please do everyone a favor. Don't make a list of 6 or 7 questions. Just one question. And I looked, as I said, I answered One question from the brothers, one question from sisters. Last night I started with the brothers. Tonight I'm going to start with the sisters. So sisters, if you have a question. Should I assume that the sisters don't have any questions?
They don't know which one to ask.
Or they feel shy and reserve all these questions for Ashura, which I'm going to be hit by a ton of bricks. So. No questions? Okay? Well, let's see what this is. I read it. The question is بعضی از سخنرانان منوح سرایان میگویند در مصیبت کربلا خدا گریه کرده یا به امام حسین خطاب میکنن ای خون خدا یا عرش خدا غرق به خون شد. What is your view? Remember, it says that some lecturers or speakers or even in the what I call the Ashura mythology, the reference made to Imam Hussein as, or in the day of Ashura, that God cried, or Imam Hussein is considered to be the blood, the divine blood, or the divine seat of power, etc., etc. What is my view? I consider all of these as metaphorical expression. Quran uses mathal. Mathal means metaphorical expression. Metaphorical expressions are used when the concept is too difficult to unpack linguistically or for our understanding. This is why we have to use parables. Quran uses the issue of ba'udha, which is what? Mosquito. Sometimes a mosquito or a fly, or sometimes ebon, camel, is used to break down and simplify an issue that ordinary people can accept and understand. So these are part of the narratives that what metaphorical language that has been used over the time, and it's become part of what we call Karbala mythology. People use it without understanding. I don't think it is meant literally, so that one could argue, well, God cries, then this contradicts Islamic theological understanding of the concept of divinity, the whole God issue, etc., etc. Once you understand it from this angle, then all references can be made, but not in a literal sense. One of the debate between Shias and Sunnis regarding some of, for example, the kissing of, say, turban, they say it's shirk. What is missing in the argument is the intention. You may do something, but is the Shia's intention to consider this as some kind of holy issue that deserves reverence and respect, or is it considered to be divine that one has to worship? The concept of intention, the intention of those who posed or created these language is metaphorical, trying to explain something that really it's very difficult to explain linguistically, because for two reasons. Language is unable to express fully what we want, limitation of language, and as well as the concept itself is very difficult to comprehend. We see it repeatedly in the difference between, say, the Ash'ari understanding of God as well as others, that they say God actually has a physical reality. They rely on some verses in the Holy Quran. Others would say, no, it doesn't make sense because it contradicts basic theological understanding and we have to use it as a metaphorical and method. So these are part of that. I really don't read much into it beyond trying to express the difficult reality that took place on the day of Ashura, where the blood of the grandson of the Holy Prophet and the entire male family members were shed and violated. And we have no other way to explain it unless within this kind of language. I hope that explains it. Any other question? We have room for one more question. 2. I told you. Oh no, that's 1. Why did most of the Imams go to battle? Well, I have to question the question by itself. Most of the Imams did not go to battle. Karbala is the final physical confrontation that we have between our Imams and Bani Umayyah or Bani al-Abbas. Remember that the entire what we call imama in Islam predicates itself on one principle, that Imams felt that it is their obligation to protect Islam. Number 1, before anything else. The methodology that they used differed depending on the circumstance that they lived in. Imam Ali went into battle with Safin, with Aisha, Jamal, as well as with Khawarij, hoping that this would stabilize the entire community and some kind of step will be taken for the community to be led to the right path. It didn't work. He was assassinated. Imam Hassan had no alternative for lack of support and to protect and preserve those nucleus individuals within the Shia, early Shia community to sign a peace treaty. Imam Hussein felt that this methodology is part of what he should do to protect Islam. After Imam Hussein, Imam Zain al-Abidin, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, until the 12th Imam, we don't see any battles. It doesn't mean that they somehow abdicated their responsibility towards challenging the existing power. No, far from it. They changed the methodology. They realized that until you establish a clear group of individuals that educate the society, a wise society, you will not be able to work for the ultimate establishment of the justice, which is the goal, as well as protection of Islam. This is why Imam Zain al-Abidin, as soon as he comes back to Medina, he switches. What does he do? He buys slaves from the market, brings them to his house, frees them, teaches them the essence of Ahlul Bayt, and then sends them out to go and propagate that message somewhere else. Imam Muhammad al-Baqir by then realizes that now people are thirsty for knowledge. Knowledge becomes the methodology by which the superiority of Ahlul Bayt and their in-depth understanding of Islam is explained. Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq says the same thing. Abu Hanifa this hadith is narrated from him. He says, I went to Masjid al-Kufa and I saw 2,000 scholars sitting down narrating hadith from Muhammad al-Baqir and Muhammad ibn Ali. This was a clear success, the policy. Then you come Musa ibn Ja'far. Bani al-Abbas become extremely wise. The political situation helped as well. Bani al-Abbas become wise. They become, the best way that they could deal with them was to bring them from Medina into Samarra, or the place of authority, Khurasan, or somewhere else, and put them under house arrest. Literally sever the contact between them and the rest of the community. From Imam Musa ibn Ja'far until Imam Rida and the rest, if it wasn't for the step taken by Imam Sajjad, with these scholars going around, the step taken by Imam Muhammad al-Baqir and Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq in liberally discussing Islamic knowledge between everyone, I don't think Shia would have survived. So the notion that all Imams went to battle is a contested notion. We really need to revisit it. Let's change.